are online worldwide. That's up from $500 million in 2003. $500 million in e-commerce sales globally. 90 billion searches every month. I mentioned roughly 3 per day. It's astounding. 24 hours of video uploaded to YouTube every minute. I mean, these numbers just really kind of blow your mind. For Mexico, we see just a huge number of folks online. Right? 30 million people have access to the internet. 1.4 billion in e-commerce. I think it's in the early days of e-commerce, but we see lots of potential there. 2.5 million searches per month, and then 70% of folks on the internet using YouTube. So what strikes me about the numbers for Mexico is just the sheer magnitude of folks who are actually online, and then just how underpenetrated e-commerce is. And I think these numbers, if you rewind 3, 4, 5 years in the U.S., you'll start to see an inflection. I believe that will happen. I don't know the market as well, but I think you have the seeds of something very, very powerful in your midst here. So that's again the foundation, or just some numbers for you to reflect on. I'm going to shift to the road ahead, because I think this does bode well, as I mentioned, for the future ahead. So the road ahead. Again, I'm going to say this a couple times. I mean, the future is really here. It's just not evenly distributed yet. So why do I say that? I mentioned where a lot of innovation. Nicholas and I were talking about Silicon Valley. That's where I live. So I'm wrapped up in this innovation, and a lot of what happens in the internet does start typically in garages, typically by two dudes together. That's kind of the recipe. But again, I want to share with you some of the things that we have going in our heads in Silicon Valley at Google, because again, I think that will help you see where the future might be going. So to make a bet, you have to have a perspective. Okay, you can't just make a bet. That's not really making a bet if you don't really have a perspective of where something's going. So in the very fast-moving internet industry, Google's making big bets. So I'm going to share a couple of the bets that we're making, or at least have a perspective on where we see things are going before I actually explain the bets. But fundamentally, it's important to understand the shift that the internet has and is going through. In the kind of old version of the internet, websites behaved more like catalogs. Right? You pulled up a page and you looked at a picture. Maybe you bought it, maybe you didn't. But it was really kind of a static experience. Okay, that's kind of the old world, and it's still pervasive in some pockets, right? The new world is basically, think of the web as a platform for running actual applications. So I'm not going to go into a lot of the technical, boring details this morning, or else you'd all fall asleep. But there are a couple standards that I want you to be aware of. There's something called HTML5. And why that matters is it allows developers to create just these incredibly powerful applications that used to have to require a PC and a computer. You have these applications which have more power than a typical PC, right? And then the innovations in technology have allowed these applications to happen 100 times faster. So JavaScript speeds have gone literally up by 100% in the last, whatever, 5 to 6 year period. There are other details like Moore's Law that dictate the speed of transistors, Kreider's Law, which dictates storage, and a whole bunch of others that I mentioned. I won't go into them. But I want you to understand the forces, and there are basically four forces. These forces are conspiring to create 4 themes that really, I believe, are shaping this next wave of the internet, and really have profound implications for commerce. And I don't care if you're a really small retailer or a really big retailer. I don't care if you're a predominantly online retailer or multi-channel or an offline retailer. These forces are having an impact on your business, and it's just a matter of time that they come to roost, if you will, or they come home and really impact it. And the four key themes, and I've captured them in pictures, are mobile, local in the bottom left. This is social. It's supposed to be social, and this is personal, like the red shoes. This is where we're placing our bets. Okay, and I'm going to dive into some of them, each of them in some degree. And I'm going to start with mobile. And there's a joke actually at Google and in the Valley that it's been the year of mobile every year for the last 5 years. So, there's been a lot of hype around mobile and mobile phones, but I actually think that some of the hype is starting to catch further the reality. So the web is increasingly mobile. And I'm going to read some stats to you to give you